Okay, so when we're talking about our sections, I'd like to have a section cut through each part of your building that's different. And in the example, the building is really one level, no changes in the roof or whatever. So in that case, we really only needed one section through the building because it's pretty much the same all the way through. In the case of the example that I have up here on the screen, if I were to look at this from an elevation view, not that one, this one, I have this raised part in the middle, and I think some of you have something similar to that, or you might have a different shaped building or whatever. So we would need a section cut at least through the two different parts of the building at a minimum. Okay, and then let's go back down to a section sheet that I've kind of developed here. And therefore, you're going to have a section, a couple of directions through the building probably. So in the example up there on the upper one, that's a longitudinal section. It goes all the way through the width of the building from side to side. And that shows that raised part of my building. It's at 1/8 inch scale, so you really can't do much with labeling it. The dimensions are there because the level heights are there, right? So you don't have to do a lot of interior dimensioning because the levels are there. You might have to dimension a ceiling height. If you put in a suspended ceiling, you might say, okay, the suspended ceiling's at 10 feet or whatever. But then we can, the upper section there is, like I said, the longitudinal section. And I actually labeled it that, longitudinal section. Then I have a cross section which goes from front to back through the flat roof part of the building. Okay, again, I put that in at 1/8 inch scale. Again, you can't do a lot of labeling or dimensioning on that, but we're going to blow up portions of it and do the labeling on that. So we don't put a lot of dimensioning on here. You could put some basic dimensioning on here, saying 2-inch topping concrete floor, 4-inch concrete basement floor, bar joist, just some basic dimensioning or labeling on there if you wanted to. But we're going to do the main labeling in the call out. So up here I have okay, so we're going to do these blow-ups. Oops, I'll do that. We're in on this section, then we would label all of the component parts that go into it. So most of our labeling will be done on these larger scale, which are 3/4 inch scale blow-ups of different component parts of the building, and I have one of the eave area down here too, or the floor area, I guess. We do have two sheets down here. We have a building section sheet and we have a detail sheet. Right now my detail sheet doesn't have anything on it, so because I'd like sections and blow-ups of different areas, it might take 2 sheets to accomplish that. So the important thing that I want to stress for you on creating these 2 sheets, since we do have somewhat of a limited amount of time to get this done, is I'm more interested in the accuracy of the detail than the labeling of the detail. Okay, so if you're gonna do a blow up of a portion of the building or even the main cross section, evaluate that section and make sure that everything is right on it. Sometimes we put a wall in and then we put a roof into that wall and then they overlap each other and they don't actually give us very good information. The important thing is to fine-tune that and make that right. So I'd rather see it right than see it labeled and not be able to read the detail. So the important thing is to get the detail right with limited labeling probably than to have a lot of labeling and all the details aren't accurate. So that's the important thing. Okay, so you all put this cap on your top of your wall, right, around the top of the building to cap off the top of the building. And if I activate this view, we can bring those detailed components in from under Annotate, Components. We can bring in detailed components. Why is that not blocking to? Whatever. So for whatever reason, I'm not getting that in there right, but I need that to put in place in the right location. And I had to modify one to make it the right shape. Let's click on this one here, and let's go to, we can edit the family. It'll bring up what the family is, and then we can edit the boundary or whatever we want to do to it to make a change in it. Okay? So just so you're aware of that. I'm going to pause this for a second. Okay. When I went to find this 2x6 within the program under components, detailed components, it comes in like this, and it comes in with this heavy bold line around the outside of it. And so if I were to put this in, it gets a little congested in there because of the line weights of it. So what I did was I clicked on that, I went to edit the family, clicked on that border, and unlocked it, and clicked on that border, edit the border, click on the lines, and it comes up as a heavy line. Okay, so I don't want it to be a heavy line, so I want it to be a light line, and so I can change all of these to light lines. And then I can finish that, and then I could just save it, and then when it comes in here to save it, since I've made changes, it's telling me, do I want to really save that original one I brought in? And I could say yes, or I could rename it I've already put it in once, so I did save it as normal cut lumber light line section. Okay, so I'll just save it as that, say OK. And yes, I want to overwrite the existing. And then I want to load that into the project. I want to overwrite the existing. And now if I click on this one, I can go find that new one that is called 2x6 light lines. And now it isn't so. So you can modify the components that are within the building. I also made a second one that has a canted end on it. So I did the same process. I took this one, modified it, called it a canted end 2x6 in my case, and then I can just move that. Into position there. Okay. So just ways of modifying your detail. Okay. Let's create detail sheets then, or section sheets and detail sheets. If you can get it all on one sheet, that's fine, depending on your project. But if you need the second sheet of details, details are not sections, but they're portions of the section, right, that you could bring in there. The one I don't have on here might be looking at this truss up here. There's no real way at an 1/8 inch scale that I can give much information about that truss. So I go over and I have created a section through that truss area. And I haven't renamed it yet, but that's the one I created. And on that section I actually made the scale a little bigger, and I dimensioned it, and I would obviously have to do more labeling on it. On this section now I don't need the whole height here, so I could put my crop window on, drag this up here, turn that crop window off, and now I have that detail, and I'll bring that onto my project. Now I'd probably want to rename this one also, and I'd say call this one Roof 2 truss detail probably. Okay. Then I'll go back to my sheet. I'll drag that one onto my sheet. Now it's a little too big to fit on the sheet correctly. Maybe I can make that smaller, so if I activate that view I can change the scale of it to 1/4 inch, which will probably be big enough. Deactivate the view and move it over a little bit. And now it fits on the sheet pretty well. I think it gives me enough information. I probably need to do some modifying over here, but once you bring the details onto the sheet, if I need to do work on them, I activate those views and go back into them and work on them, because then I can see how it's going to affect the sheet rather than going back to the original view. You can do all the kinds of modifications on the original view, then you go back and look at your sheet and it still doesn't look right. So in this case, you know, I would just go in here and activate this view, and now I'm still seeing it on the sheet, and I can see how these kind of changes are going to affect the sheet. And then deactivate the view again. Okay, so I find it's best to fine-tune these details on the sheet versus back on the original view. Also, you might have text that's overlapping other text, and you can easily fix it here and in relationship to another detail on that sheet. Okay, so any questions about that, just call me over and I'll go over that. Otherwise, keep in mind the important thing is that the detail is correct. Then go ahead and put the labeling on the best you can, but most of your labeling will be in the blow-up details, not the main sections. Okay?